Hi, welcome back to the DadKnows studios. So thank you for joining us again. As you can see, today we're moving to 1917. You may be thinking, why are we moving so fast through history? We're just running right through. Well, I am following along with some of my children's homeschool curriculum, so we're trying to hit some of the highlights as we go. Are there plenty of things we're going to go back in and fill back in over the course of future DadKnows episodes? Absolutely. Are there things more pertinent to world history that we're going to go back and fill in future episodes of DadKnows? Absolutely that as well. So today we're actually dealing with World War I and talking about 1917. Speaking of that, World War I actually ran from 1914 through 1918. But because we're talking about U.S. history now, we're going to go with 1917, which is where Woodrow Wilson actually asked Congress to declare war on Germany, and that's when the U.S. entered the war. So, but part of what we're talking about today is one of the events that led up to that, which actually occurred in 1915, and that was the sinking of the British passenger liner, the Lusitania. So, there's a lot of controversy around the sinking of this ship. The Lusitania was originally laid down with some British government money under the provision that it could be used as a military armed merchant cruiser in the future if the British government felt that was necessary. Now, at the beginning of World War I in 1914, the British government initially listed the Lusitania as an armed merchant cruiser. But then they changed their mind and never armed it, and they never put any guns on it, but they also never went back and said, oh yeah, no, we're not using it for that. So the Lusitania was continuing to run back and forth across the Atlantic, carrying passengers from England to New York and back and forth. As it was going on these passages, it was also picking up cargo and carrying cargo back and forth. Some of that cargo happened to be military cargo. So what we'll do is we'll jump forward to May 7th, 1915. So I'll show you a little demonstration of what happened, and we're going to use our sponsor for today, which is Advanced Presentation Simulations Incorporated, to show you exactly what happened. So the Lusitania here, this excellent mock-up, was cruising along off of the Irish coast when a German U-boat U-20 appeared and fired one torpedo into the starboard side of the Lusitania. Now, this is where the controversy begins, or it really begins before that, but some people say that the U-boat fired two torpedoes. The Germans always maintain they fired one torpedo. Regardless, the Lusitania sustained a massive explosion on the right side and sank very quickly. Matter of fact, it only took it 18 minutes to sink. So, of the 1,200 odd people on board the Lusitania, 1,200 people died on the Lusitania, or almost 1,200. Of those 1,200 people, 128 of them were American passengers, which led to a lot of bad feelings in America towards Germany. Up to this point, up to 1915, the American population had been somewhat divided as to whether or not the Americans should be, pro-British in this war, the French as well, pro-British and French, versus the Central Powers. And you may think, well, no, we were founded by English, but there were a lot of German immigrants to the United States over the course of the 1830s all the way through the 1910s. And so there was actually a lot of people in America that felt that they identify with Germany in much the same way that many people identify with England or France. So public sentiment shifted that direction. So anyway, that helped to lead up to the destruction, the entering of the war. So now we'll have a quick word from our sponsor, and then we'll be back to wrap that up. Hi, looking to add a little excitement to your next presentation? Well, Advanced Simulation Presentations Incorporated has the answers for you. Let's say you have a guy, you want him walking along, and you want him to get, attacked by a dragon. We can do that. Let's say you want to have the same guy get rescued by an ambulance. We can do that too. Let's say you have an aviation-themed presentation and you want to have a dogfight between two little imaginary airplanes. We can do that too. We can solve all of your low-budget presentation needs at Advanced Presentation Simulations Incorporated. Thank you very much. All right, welcome back in, and thank you once again to our sponsor, Advanced Presentation Simulation Incorporated. They do some awesome very low budget work over there. So we're so thankful to them. We look forward to their future help and collaboration as we move forward at DadKnows. So anyway, when we left off, we were talking about the Lusitania sinking and the controversy around it, because it actually was carrying quite a lot of munitions when it was sunk. The Germans said it was maybe even carrying more than the British said it was. The British denied that. It went back and forth. This controversy about it raged on really well after the war, all the way into like the 1970s. People were still arguing about this. But what it did lead to was the Germans did sort of restrict some of what they were doing in and around the British Isles for the next year and a half. But as we got into early 1917, the naval war had been going pretty poorly for the Germans. The British Navy was too powerful, so they unleashed their U-boats and started having them go again. And they actually declared that basically unconditional war in and around the British Isles on January 17, which really made the Americans mad, given what had happened to American citizens just a year and a half prior on the Lusitania. So by April of 1917, Woodrow Wilson asked Congress to declare war on Germany, and Congress did so. So what did that do? What impact did that have? Well, the Germans had actually launched an offensive, a big spring offensive in March of 1917 that was actually being quite successful. They were kind of rampaging through France, pushing the French and the British back. But by May of 1917, because of that war declaration, 2 million brand new, fresh American troops arrived in France to fight with the British and the French. And given the long nature of the war, the British were exhausted, the French were exhausted, and as were the Germans and the Russians. Basically, everybody that had been fighting for 4 years was exhausted. The Americans weren't. So that did play a major role in turning the tide of the war sort of against the Germans, and led to, eventually the German surrender in 1918, about a year and a half later, November of 1918. So anyway, that's all I have to say about that. You may be asking, why did we bring a guest in today? Well, there were a couple people who could bring in. I did mention Woodrow Wilson. I'll be honest with you, I didn't really want to talk to Woodrow Wilson, so that's why I didn't bring him in. But I'll let you know more about that later. But and I thought about getting the captain of the Lusitania or the captain of the German U-boat, but I figured I'd just let those guys, let the mystery around what all happened just stand. So anyway, thank you so much for watching DadKnows. If you like the video, then subscribe, share it with your friends. If you don't like it, well, nothing much I can do for you. Thanks so much.